Psalm 46 verse 5. God is within her, she will not fail. God will help her at the break of day. God is within me, I will not fail. He will be my help at the break of day. And that's what got me through life. That's what got me through understanding. That's what got me through combating. What got me through fighting. What got me through tears. What got me through moments where I felt like there was nothing that can actually dig me up out of that hole that just kept on growing deeper and deeper and deeper. Eliezer, God, my help. There were moments where this little girl would just want to crumble and fall, where she would be so sick of just everything, where her laugh, her joy, her purpose fell in the hands of others. And without those others, she felt as though she had no place. She depended on the joy of others to bring her her own joy. Her peace was never peaceful when she was alone in her own head, just being driven crazy by the endless thoughts that would be spinning like a hamster on its wheels. She was broken, so convinced that nothing could fix her. Her joy was never infinite, as they'll say. Her joy was never consistent. Not when she was trapped in her own head. She wouldn't speak. She would keep it in. She would bottle it up until there was nothing else to bottle up. She would explode, but she would still keep in. She would talk, withhold information because she was convinced her voice held no importance. It held no value. It held no relevance. She was surrounded by a bunch of people who loved her. She didn't live miserably. She should be happy, typical girl, a mom and a dad, amazing siblings, an amazing neighborhood, great friends. But she was always missing something. Why cry? Both your parents live with you. Why do you feel so alone? You have a house filled with people yelling, screaming, shouting, laughing, dancing, singing. Why do you feel so empty? Why do you feel so alone? This little girl was always trapped and always missing something. She was a good girl. Didn't get in trouble, listened to her parents, had no reason to feel depressed. I just want that little girl to know that we found peace, we found joy, we found love, and we understand it. We're not alone. We're not trapped in our own thoughts, trying to understand what is my purpose here. You're not alone. You're not a nobody. You're not irrelevant. Your voice matters. You're somebody's daughter. You're a princess, a royal nation. You're created in the image of such a mighty man. I want that little girl to know that we made it out. That hole that just kept on growing deeper and deeper, and it felt as though nobody could hear me. I would scream, but I would just be alone. It was getting deeper, it was getting darker. There was a light that reached in and grabbed me, placed me on solid land, and told me it's okay. Those tears that I would cry alone in the bathroom, those tears that I would cry alone in the room, when somebody would come, I would quickly put on a happy face and act as though everything's okay. It's okay, I'm just in here playing by myself. I want you to know that there was someone who was hearing those cries. His light shined. He reached his hand out and wiped those tears. He replaced it with joy. He replaced it with love. He replaced that depression with happiness. Now I smile. Who would have thought? That little girl who needed a reason to smile now smiles without needing a reason. Little girl who would cry herself to sleep now worships and praises her way through the night, who can sleep with a sound mind, knowing that God is my help, that Jesus loves me so much, a love that is unexplainable, a love where he would sacrifice his life for me, a love that I wondered even existed. Who can love someone so much to be put to death? Who can love me to sacrifice their life? Who would put everything on hold just to come and wipe my tears? Who's so readily available for me when I feel like I'm not being heard? That little girl who longed for that type of love, who felt so empty, who didn't understand, who was lost. You found it. We found it. We made it. You see, what I thought was impossible, shattered glass being repaired, but with Jesus, what is not possible? Part of me that I felt was so broken, that glass that literally crumbled before me on the floor, I watched as the Lord made it new, shinier, brighter, happier, and bulletproof. A letter to me. You're not broken. You're not irrelevant. You're heard. We're heard. We no longer depend on others to bring us happiness because we found peace. God granted us peace. To that little girl, I wish we looked harder, earlier. I wish that we would have toned out the world. To that little girl, we find comfort. We're comforted. The presence of the Lord is just always with us. We don't walk into a room with our head down anymore. No, we walk with our head held high. We no longer hold everything within because we feel as though our voice doesn't matter. But we're heard. Even at times where we don't even realize we need to be heard, we're heard. Things move in our favor. The Lord makes the impossible possible. Geez, we made it to college. Like, God turned it around. He made everything better. He made everything make sense. Things that just didn't make sense now make sense. He changed our name. I'm no longer Angie the broken girl. Angie the girl with no purpose. But I'm Angie, the girl helped by God. The girl who found purpose, who found joy, who found peace. The girl with a voice. We made it. He turned our story around and he rewrote it. Sometimes you try to close the book and start a new one, but no, he just started a new chapter. But this time, he was in charge of the words that were written. You see, all the other times we were trying to navigate life. We were trying to understand what we would never be able to understand. We were trying to find love with people and things that didn't really love us for real. We tried to make narratives and stories, convince ourselves that it was going to be okay, but it wasn't going to be okay because we didn't know him. He rewrote our whole story. He went back and made edits. Things that used to be black and white, now when I reflect on it, I understand. My life is now filled with color. To that little girl, to the girl who was lost, who was so deep in that hole that only the hands of God could pull out. The girl who refused to see the bright side of anything because she was so convinced that this was it. I was okay with not being okay. I was okay with pretending in front of everybody, but inside, dying. I was okay. It never made sense. I'm glad that I had to go through a process to meet him. I'm glad I had to go through a process to see how glorious he is and how good he is and how much he favors me. We came such a long way from where we were. Now when I look back at who we were, I'm glad that there was that change, that transformation. If you sat me here 5 years ago, I would have told you it's not true. I would have said I'm still broken. I would have said I'm still a work in progress that would never be worked on because no progress would ever be made. I would have told you that there is nobody in this world who would love me. I would have sat here and convinced you that that same favor that the Lord had over Abraham, that he had over Noah, that he had over Jacob would never, ever be my portion. I would have sat here and said, the same way the Lord remembered Leah and Rachel, he would have never remembered me. But he remembered me. He remembered us. Those tears we cried weren't in vain. Those nights we spent where we couldn't sleep, where we would hide and mask. He saw us and he remembered us. You see, we seeked him. We found him and he remembered us. He reminds me every single day that he remembered me. At times where I feel as though I want to give up, like this is too much, he reminds me that he remembered me. 5 years ago, he saw us. 6, 7 years ago, he saw us. Through high school, Mercy, he saw us. Through 8th grade, middle school, he saw us. He never stopped seeing us. He never forgot us. He was just calling out for us. We didn't hear him. But one day we finally let him in. And that was the best decision that I could have made for that little girl. For that little girl who would get so irritated and upset, who would lie, who would be just annoyed and angry all the time. To that little girl, we've come a long way. We're happy. We're joyful. We smile. Like, we actually smile just to smile. Like, I don't need a reason to smile. I just do it. The goodness of the Lord never leaves my tongue. His words marinate inside of me. I'm always filled. I'm always happy. We're always happy. We're loved. We're understood. And we're seen. Because God, our helper, he helped us through. And finding him was the best decision we've made. So to that little girl, to the little girl who felt like her future wasn't bright, whose future made no sense, we found sense, we found purpose, and we found understanding through him, through Jesus, through Yahweh, Elohim, Adonai, the God of gods, the Most High King, our Father, who's seated on the throne, waiting for us patiently to be seated right next to him. And that love that we have for him and that he has for us surpasses any love.